Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Andrew Nette. I'm Link Digital's in-house writer and analyst, and you're watching CKAN Insider. Today's guest is Ian Ward. Ian has a long association with the Comprehensive Knowledge Archive Network and is a highly influential CKAN core developer. He's part of the CKAN tech team, which is responsible for the technical vision and the core software of CKAN. Welcome to CKAN Insider, Ian.
Thanks, Andrew.
Okay. So CKAN is an open source software with a global community around it. And as I said in my introduction, you've been deeply involved in that community for, I think, about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a bit about what initially attracted you to getting involved in CKAN.
Sure. So I came to open source and Linux probably around 25 years ago when I was working at Corel, when they were working on a Linux version of their Corel Draw package. So like Adobe Illustrator, I guess. That's when I was really sort of introduced to the idea that hey, open source is a thing. You can actually have control over the stuff that's running on your computer. You don't always have to get permission for everything or pay for everything necessarily, and you can actually have freedom to build what you want, and best of all, use all of those things that everybody else that is fascinated by doing that type of thing has created, because often those are passion projects. Those are things where somebody is really solving something that is an issue for them, and they're trying to do the best they can at providing a general solution for everybody. So since then, I've been more and more involved in open source development, often through my consulting work and other types of opportunities. And when the opportunity came up to work on open source software, but within the Canadian federal government, I was initially very surprised, because that's not something that they were known for at the time. They were largely a Microsoft shop or a Java shop, and everything that I had heard before was about everything being locked down. So to work on an open data platform that was also built on open source technology, and then be able to collaborate with governments that are doing the same thing and technology people that are doing the same thing, was a very exciting opportunity for me.
So that was Open Canada, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was the National Open Data Portal.
That's right.
Was that one of the first CKAN data portals in Canada, or not?
It wasn't the first, and actually, I found in some of the CKAN code base, there were people that were working on a CKAN site for Canadian open data long before the government had considered doing it themselves. And so there had I think already been other examples of CKAN use, and certainly of open data being popular and being adopted in Canada. This was just the Canadian government deciding that it's time to get with the times, along with the US government. I believe it's India and the UK. There was the Open Government Partnership that was formed, which set a set of technologies that would be used for creating these open government platforms and sharing data. And so this was just us sort of playing catch up to what people had already started. I think CKAN, well, I mean, at that time had been around for about 10 years, so there were people that had been using it for long before us.
Okay, your work for CKAN often focuses on the under the hood architecture and development, or developer experience. And for people who are not overly familiar with CKAN, can you tell us a bit about what that means and what type of work that involves?
Yes, happy to. The fact that I'm working on stuff that's sort of under the hood comes from my background as a developer. I'm very interested in how all this stuff works and making improvements that I find sort of interesting. The really cool and exciting stuff that people are doing with CKAN often are about integrating into big existing systems that are publishing data sets, or that are consuming data sets, that are creating visualizations, that are tying it into larger processes or workflows. Whereas for the CKAN project itself, the thing that I found interesting is in making smaller changes that enable all of that stuff, so that people that are trying to build big, cool things don't get hemmed in by a limitation in the CKAN software. So some of the stuff that I do, might seem very, sort of very boring or not super flashy, but it's all about trying to enable people that are doing those more exciting things, so that they can use CKAN to do that.
Okay, so you've, as you say, you've worked on a lot of fixes to the CKAN core. Can you give me an example of something you've built or fixed in this regard, what it was and why you think it mattered, even though it might not have been particularly apparent to the on the outside?
So going back about 10 years, the first sort of initial contributions that I was making to CKAN were around performance. The catalog that we were trying to publish had around 200,000 data sets at the time. And this was because we hadn't consolidated a number of things that should have been fewer data sets. But because we were trying to publish 200,000 data sets in software that wasn't designed to handle that many, we were running into performance limitations. So I was working on initially fixing some of those performance limitations so that we could load this many data sets and have them available quickly, and so they could be updated quickly. And from there were a number of other improvements that we needed around multilingualism, that in terms of the metadata that was collected. So internal changes that helped us build the extensions that we needed, helped us customize the CKAN the way that we needed, is what I was working on.
Okay, I mean, Link Digital is one of two co-stewards of the CKAN software. What does co-stewardship look like day to day? What's it involve?
Well, I see just a small part of it because I'm working on the development team. So for me, that means doing anything that anybody else that's contributing to the CKAN community as a developer can do, which is I'm helping review pull requests. I'm helping to submit changes that I think would be better for CKAN in the future, to unblock functionality that maybe hasn't been as easy to do in the past. I'll be providing feedback, as parts of reviewing those pull requests, and regularly attending the developer meetings and trying to make a space that's inviting for new developers to come and join, and to have a place where people can have a conversation about some of the changes that are being made and influence decisions as we're making them.
Okay, that's one of the things I've always found interesting. I mean, at Link Digital, we talk a lot about the community around CKAN, the open source community around CKAN, but exactly how big is it? I mean, I know there's a tech team, but how many people are actually contributing to the software, do you think?
That's a hard number to pin down. Yeah. There's a fairly small number of people that are regular contributors to CKAN, and there's a very large number of people that have made contributions in the past. So that changes over time as people come onto the project because they're working on a specific site and then move on to other things. It's one of the things that we're trying to crack is how do you get people to come and stay and continue to contribute. And I think that's about making sure that the people that have a vested interest in CKAN's continued success find that spending time actually working on that core and making it better for everybody, they see that as a value to themselves. So that say companies like Link Digital can understand that while there's definitely a temptation to build something and then keep it to yourself, we're definitely all better off by contributing to the community, both so that we aren't the only ones that need to maintain that code long term in the future, and so that you can benefit from the improvements that other people are going to be contributing. It's I think the same problem that many open source communities face. We've been quite lucky in having a solid amount of support and long-term contributors, but we could always use new people and new ideas to help keep things going.
Okay, but a lot of the fixes that you do and the innovation that you do to CKAN actually also comes from work that you've done for Link Digital clients, yeah? Can you give us an example of that, of one of those, for example?
Sure. Well, similar to how my initial work was about getting 200,000 data sets into CKAN, some of the limitations that we've run to for Link's clients are in terms of the performance when working with very, very large data store tables. And this is something that we've been working on to make it reasonable to have millions and millions of records in the data store and still have queries running quickly, still have the data being possible to update quickly, and have the data that's stored in the database stored in an efficient format. So that's some of the work that I've done for some of the clients.
Okay. The CKAN project is turning 20 in May, which is why we're doing these CKAN Insider videos, talking to people who've been involved in the community. I mean, going forward, one of the key applications of CKAN has obviously been data portals. Can you see that continuing going forward? And how are they changing? And how should they change to meet the evolving needs of data users?
Well, I think one of the real strengths of CKAN is how it had always been designed with the ability to extend it sort of baked in from into every part of it. So CKAN fits in a lot of places that you wouldn't immediately think. I've seen it used for data ingestion systems. I've built extensions around this, so it can be used as a good tool to collect and validate data. It's certainly very good at integrating with other data systems, and really everything that any business, any government is doing is powered more and more by data. And so having a sensible way to track that data, view changes on it, store things that you need like provenance information or licensing information or specific metadata fields that are customized for your organization. All of that stuff is really key, I find, to sort of almost any organization. And open data portals is only what sort of, I think, brought CKAN to the front. Right. But its applicability, I think, is huge. Like I can see it being a very good tool for all sorts of different applications.
Such as?
Well, internal usage. I mean, you're talking about having catalogs that are just tailored to a particular team's usage. The fact that you can customize every bit of the workflow, the way everything is connected, you can integrate it with any existing systems very easily. The documentation is very good, especially for an open source project. So when you're getting new people, coming on or trying to build extensions to it, that's something that's where the learning curve is definitely smooth. And any system that needs to track the movement of data sets is very useful when you've got a lot of data sets that you're handling. And CKAN has shown itself to be very capable of that.
Well, one of the key challenges is obviously, though, the rapid rise of AI.
Yep.
Which everyone is talking about, and we're going to talk about it a little bit too. I mean, you've been a major contributor to, I think it's Croissant 1.1, which is an open standard metadata format designed to make machine learning data sets easier to discover, use, and share. Tell us a little bit about why Croissant matters and the specification that you helped develop for multilingual metadata support.
Yes, I've been attending the Croissant working groups, and I've contributed one feature to the Croissant 1.1 standard, which, as you mentioned, is the multilingual support. This is something that comes from a background in my work on the Canadian Federal Open Data Portal, where it's critical that any metadata that's captured is captured in 2 official languages. In many parts of the world, you need more languages than that. And so being able to extend Croissant, which is a metadata standard for publishing specifically machine learning data sets, because it can handle very, very large data sets, including directories full of potentially hundreds or thousands of files, as well as very large data, say from Parquet sources or from extremely large tables. It's also important that it is possible to catalog this information in the languages that your consumers need, and not just assume that everybody speaks English everywhere all of the time. AI is definitely getting better at providing multilingual tools to users, but sometimes nothing really beats having the actual version of the language instead of having a tool that will do the translation for you. And having the data is what actually makes these AI tools useful for performing their jobs. So that's where our interest in CKAN and the work in Adria's work in adding support to the DCAT extension for publishing Croissant versions of the metadata that's stored in CKAN. This is all really important for making sure that the AI tools that people are using are actually able to find and leverage the right data for the problem that people are asking them to solve.
Okay, can you comment more generally about what you think, I suppose, some of the challenges arising from AI, broad term, I know, but let's not get into that now, but are for CKAN going forward?
So, I'll just start by saying I'm not an AI expert.
Sure.
And so in terms of challenges,
most people aren't. Yeah.
I think that we're definitely seeing more people wanting the types of tools that they see coming out of major vendors. They want to be able to interact with their data catalogs more like they're interacting with ChatGPT. So tools like that are definitely useful, helping people engage and then find the specific source of the data so that they can rely on it. When we're building tools that are based on data, at the moment, I believe it's not the best idea to feed the raw data into an LLM and ask it to do stuff with the data. So the biggest opportunities are around having those tools provide code or connect other existing tools that are deterministic, that then work with the data. And CKAN, by providing access to the data for those tools, makes it possible to have agents that are doing things in an intelligent way, which is usually not having the LLM do the work, but having a custom tool do the specific work that's required, whether that's generating queries on data or connecting different systems in order to solve a particular problem. So I see CKAN as something that empowers systems that are going to be built on AI tools, and all of this stuff needs data to function, and the best way to know which data that that you need to use is by having good metadata, and that's exactly what CKAN's about.
Okay. So Link Digital is a co-steward of CKAN, as I've said. We're also a commercial company that uses CKAN in data management, open data projects, etc. When organisations evaluate CKAN partners, why should they care whether the partner contributes back to the CKAN software?
Well, as an open source developer, I would say that demonstrates an understanding of what the community value is actually providing. By working on this stuff together, we are able to have a lot more potential ideas or potential eyes on particular problems. Things can be solved in ways that you might not expect. But also it means that we have sort of an adversarial relationship that can improve things, because if we want to do something one way, but someone else has got a better idea, or they've got something that works differently, then there is that competition, and it's done in the open, and everybody can benefit from that. So things that are built don't go and then quietly disappear when a customer goes away. They're there. They're maintained in the community. Anybody can pick them up and run with them. And better yet, where there's opportunity to create reusable functionality, there's a real benefit to doing that and sharing that work, so that the next time that we need to build something similar, or anybody else needs to build something similar, they can reuse that, potentially improve it, help us fix bugs. It's something that yeah, I mean, the argument for open source, I guess, is one that I find, especially in this space, especially in government space, there's no reason that we need to be competing and keeping our solutions secret. But even in the commercial sector, the problems that we're solving with open source tools like CKAN are not the key differentiator in what we're doing. So by sharing them, we actually all become better at our jobs. It doesn't become a disadvantage.
Okay. You're heavily involved in helping guide the transition of CKAN towards its next major release, which is CKAN 3.0. Why is this release important, and what are some of the things it's going to offer?
From the developer side perspective, 3.0 is an opportunity to do some cleanups that we previously would avoid. The team has been very good at making upgrades very, very easy for users, to the point that perhaps we're sometimes prevented from making some of the larger changes that we would like to. One of the big drivers for 3.0 is a revamp of the user interface. The user interface and CKAN's templates make up perhaps one of the biggest interfaces that sites will extend and then depend on, that are part of the CKAN code base. And so that then makes it very hard to change. So 3.0 will give us a chance to say, okay, we've looked at the way that we've been doing it for 20 years, and now we would like to reorganize things to simplify them, to make it a little bit easier to customize, to make it a little bit more modern. And at the same time, we can look at breaking some of the internal assumptions that were made about the way certain data structures are organized, because the earlier decisions made sense at the time, but they might be holding us back in terms of flexibility or performance or for some other reasons. Now, 3.0 isn't out yet, so I don't know everything that's going to be landing there, but the opportunity to step away from some of the things in the past, I think, is a very it's a very exciting time for the project. And while it does potentially mean a little bit more work for people to make that upgrade, it's going to clear the way for us to implement some of the exciting features that the people are hoping for in the future.
Okay, wonderful. We've kind of touched on this question, but I'm going to approach it from another angle. I mean, it's the last question I've got for you. It's the 20th anniversary of CKAN, and I'd be keen for any more thoughts you might have about the potential and the challenges facing the software going forward on the occasion of its 20th anniversary.
The potential and challenges. Well, I mean, you touched on some of them. Certainly, everybody's interested in using AI for as much as they can. Mm-hmm. Data powers everything, and so having a good data catalog will definitely help you in that regard. CKAN, like any open source project, definitely faces the challenges of how do we keep the community going, and so growing and continuing to grow and have the community thrive is something that it takes ongoing work and takes commitment and takes contributions from stewards and other companies and governments that benefit from the project. So continuing to grow the project that way and make sure that people are collaborating with it is always a challenge. So those are some of the issues that are on my mind. I don't have solutions for all of that yet. The POSE project is in its second year, and it's looking to continue to strengthen the CKAN ecosystem. And so I would love to see more events or more structure being built up around the project to try to continue to grow the community, try to continue to attract new contributors. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, CKAN has been great for the past 10 years. I'm only positive about it the next 10 years. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Okay. Thanks, Ian, for sharing what co-stewardship of CKAN actually looks like behind the scenes, and for the work you do every day in keeping CKAN strong. If you'd like to learn more about how Link Digital builds and contributes to CKAN, or how we can support your open data project, reach out to us at linkdigital.com.au, and thanks for watching CKAN Insider.